And most of us never get to publish a book. I bet that's a very exciting experience, putting all of that work in.
It never
Really,
gets old, you know. And my wife always says, "Why do you never stop?" So I'm already 12 chapters into my new book now. You see, so
wow.
that's what I'm on now, you know. And then by the time I finish this book, probably the next couple of months, I'll be on the next book, which is already contracted, and I'm thinking about it already and drawing, making notes to myself. And then beyond that is the next book, which I've already thought about. But 2 books out is a new book on interaction processes. It's a bit more sophisticated. You know.
So you got the books lined up. I mean,
That's right. It's just a holding pattern, and all I got to do is stay alive. That's the hard part.
oh, that's very impressive. All you're able to do. I wish I could write like that.
But
Uh,
you know who I would never have thought I could do it. If you talked to me when I was in graduate school, I've had writing a book is that was the first book. It was very important that I wrote that first book early. It was the first thing I published. I had 1 article published, and when that first book came, then I realized I had to publish articles, so I started doing that. But you realize writing a book is basically grunt work. You just do 1 step at a time, and if you write a certain number of pages every day, the book is done. And as I'm sometimes asked to give a talk about writing a book to student groups, and I say, just think about this: if you wrote 1 page a day for a year, that's a book. 1 page.
is that what you do? You try to write 1 page a day, or is it?
I write many more a day when I write. You know, I'll write 10 or 20. Because I don't write every day. I have to set things up. But the key part of a book is to know where you're going. What's the beginning point and what's the end? Once you know that, you can sort of find a way. And sometimes you change it. It shifts around a little bit. But you got to know where you're ending up and where you're starting. And then you got to know, is there any literatures I need to do before I start? There's something I need to do. And that's what I'm always doing. Say right now, I'm thinking about this. I'm going to go to world systems, write a little book on world systems or geopolitics. And I'm thinking about that, and putting notes away and taking notes, reading things occasionally. And files being accumulated. So by the time I get to it in a couple of months, I'll be ready to write. And then it'll just be executing the writing. I have a co-author, a former student, and that'll help. That'll make the process a lot easier. But the key is to write consistently, and don't put it down. If you put it down, I've done that a couple of times just because other things came up or I got sick or something like that. And that always screws me up because then you lose where you are. When you're running a book, you've got to be focused on it. So I try to write every day, but it's just not always possible. Sometimes I just have to check something out. So when I write, so if I usually when I'm the really good way of writing, if I get on a rhythm, it's on a rhythm. Every morning, if I write for 3 hours, I can write 10 pages. And if I write more than 10 pages, I pay the price. The next 10 pages, and I do that frequently because I'm on a roll, and I know I want to get it all on paper. I always have to go back and heavily edit it because I'm tired. And so that's the key to me. And so the process of writing itself goes pretty fast. It's more how you set it up. That takes a little time. And sometimes, like this Human Nature book, I've been thinking about for 10 years. And I wasn't quite ready to write it. And then I finally said, I had this little gap of 6 months. And I said, this is when I'm going to write this book. And that's what I did. And I just rented an office in Santa Barbara, and I wanted to just be about my boats, and I did it. And worked away. I went every day, 3 or 4 hours to that office and wrote. And I didn't have to do a lot of new research because I kind of had done all that. And that's what I'm doing in the current book. I tell institutions I've studied this many times, but it's got a new angle and some new things. And I'm writing a very great young man who's one of my students who has lots of good ideas. And so it's great. He's adding lots to the book. So it's making it easier on me. So it's just plodding along very, very fast. So we'll be done.
Wow. Is the process the same for journal article, or can you pump those out like in a week? Or...
Well, interesting what's happened to me in the journal articles is I actually write them in a couple days, you know, because I'm ready. When I sit down, I'm ready. And sometimes 3 or 4 days, you know, I take a break. And then I sit on them for a while. They're not done. I've got the ideas basically out there, and I fiddle with them. And but I used to take much longer to write an article. I remember taking a whole summer writing an article on evolution of law, and I can't even imagine doing that now. You know, it's one thing you get good at, and that's there are many bad things about being old. But one of the nice things about being old and having worked really hard all your life, studied hard, and have files, and I take notes, and I have files, is that I have a lot of knowledge that even if I don't have it in my brain, I know where it is in the file cabinet, and it goes much faster. When you're young and starting out, you're still putting that, you're always putting it in. And just think of it took me 2 years to learn about the brain, so I wouldn't embarrass myself when I talked to a neurologist. In fact, neurologists are very over specialized. It's hard to talk to them because they're just studying one little neural transmitter or something like that. And I want to talk about the whole system. And they don't know anything about that. And they're kind of interested. Why would you want to know all about that stuff? And I said, well, I know all of that stuff, but everything else about the brain. I want to know what its basic architecture, all the functioning systems, and why it evolved. And they find it kind of weird that a sociologist would try to learn all that stuff. Yeah. So now I have that knowledge. I got that knowledge 20 years ago. And I try to keep up a little bit, but I can't keep up with everything. But it's there. I can keep using it. It doesn't go away. And that's what happens. You accumulate a lot of knowledge and a lot of files and a lot of understandings of how things work. And you just keep those. You don't just use them once. They're used again and again and again for new ideas you have, new twists, new angles. It really makes life interesting.